We have offices in San Francisco and Bangalore. I'm here with my esteemed colleagues, Gabe Miklos, who is a senior project manager and a certified Scrum Master, and Eshwar Reddy, who is our marketing cloud solutions architect. And Eshwar is zen cool, he really is. And I'm not, but I'm trying to be. So before we get started, I'd like to ask just a couple questions. How many of you are marketing cloud developers or admin? How many of you are marketing cloud business professionals? And how many of you have ever worked on a stressful marketing cloud project? Me too, and hopefully this presentation will ease some of that pain. Before I get started, Eshwar, can you give just a quick overview of Marketing Cloud?
Sure. So, as you all are probably already aware of Marketing Cloud, it's basically a campaign deployment and a campaign automation software. And it can be used for sending communications in multiple channels, and it also helps you automate a lot of things and save a lot of time doing things that you would do manually otherwise. And since there's also opportunities for personalizing your message to the subscriber, it connects more with the subscriber itself and drives more revenue and recognition for your brand.
Thank you. It's kind of interesting how ZenCloud got into Marketing Cloud. We are a startup. We started about 4 years ago, and we were just really focusing on Salesforce. And we were in about our third project with one of our clients, and the CTO called us in and he said, it turns out our marketing department just purchased Marketing Cloud, and they didn't even inform IT, and now they want us to help set it up and configure it, and we just don't have the resources. So can you do it? And we said, well, we've never done a Marketing Cloud project before, but we're confident because we have the really solid processes in place that we can deliver. And so he said, okay, you can have the project. So we took the project, and I'm not going to say it was easy. It was our first Marketing Cloud project. We reached out to our network, and that's where we found Eshwar, who's amazing in Marketing Cloud. And we had a lot of lessons learned based on that first project, and that's what we're going to talk to you about today. We're going to go over just a few project processes, best practices, Gabe and I, and then Eshwar is going to go over some development lessons learned, and then Gabe is going to go over some testing and reporting and monitoring best practices. And then if we have time, we'll go into questions. So Gabe and I are divers, so this has a diving theme to it, but our model that we've tested out and that works for us is to have an onshore team and an offshore team, so kind of a blended model. And it's really important to have a project manager on every project, of course, as most of you know. A good Marketing Cloud lead like an Eshwar. And of course, the most important person is the business or product owner that's dedicated to the project and available to answer any questions and attend meetings on a day-to-day basis. And then offshore, it's good to have a Marketing Cloud lead, your Marketing Cloud developers, and you have to have a good QA team. Very important. So as you probably know, beginnings and endings are very important. And so we want to start off the project with a very strong beginning. So we always do a discovery, and that's 2 or 3 days or more for a huge project of deep diving where we go into all the requirements. And the first thing is to make sure you have all the right people in the room, including the sponsor, the marketing department, the IT department, data analytics, and the project manager. Now, some lessons learned here is the reason you want all these people is because you're always setting expectations. The Marketing Cloud, the marketing product owner, she didn't realize that there would be any effort involved in setting up Marketing Cloud and doing her campaigns. She thought it would be a slam dunk. And so it was really important for her and her manager and the senior manager to know that there's a lot of effort involved and a lot of work that goes into making sure that you're capturing all the necessary requirements. Another lessons learned is, yes, we had the IT department, we knew we were gonna need integrations done, but we did not have the data analytics person in the room. Now this was key in this case because there's always data. The biggest issue that I found with all the Marketing Cloud projects we've done several since, is getting the right data so that you can run your campaigns effectively and do robust campaigns. We knew we had to do integrations, but it turns out the data analytics person wasn't involved, and the MuleSoft person reported to the data analytics person in this case, and he was tied up because the company was going through a merger. Now that was another lessons learned. There was just so many red flags on this project. They were going through a merger, and so the MuleSoft resource wasn't available. We ended up having to hire a MuleSoft resource. That's how we got into MuleSoft too, offshore. And now we have a MuleSoft team to help us with, clearing roadblocks for our clients. Also, the project manager, I was working as a project manager in those days. I don't do projects anymore, but I do go to the discoveries usually, but I was busy with the Salesforce project. So I sent a senior project manager instead of me to this discovery, and she came back and she quit. She said, I'm not gonna take this project because there's too many problems. They're going through a merger, there's all these issues about the data. They don't know what systems they're gonna keep and what systems they're not gonna keep. So there's just a lot of red flags. Maybe we could have suggested that we wait, but we forged ahead on this project. And by the way, it did turn out, we ended up doing a crawl, walk, and run phase. And because they really wanted to get something out there. And it did turn out, but again, it was just not easy. You always want to start your discoveries with an agenda, with a short business overview, and go through your high priority marketing campaigns, and of course identify the data requirements. Another lessons learned here is that we got a beautiful overview of the business, but it was so large, the overview, that we ran out of time going over the high priority marketing campaigns, and we had to have a lot of follow-up meetings to get the details that we needed. The deliverables out of our discovery are epics, which are just, classifications, categories. If you're new to Marketing Cloud, if it's a new project, we want setup and configuration epics and campaigns. Another thing is we want to get as much information as we can to do a backlog of user stories, identify the dependencies, and then if we estimate those out, even though we don't have all the information we need, then we can create an estimated sprint schedule and a high-level timeline. And even if you're doing Agile, your clients or your customers, whoever, if it's internal or external, they want to know about when you're going to deliver something. So it's really important to try to come up with some high-level timeline and set expectations. This is not easy, it's going to take time, or it is easy, and this is how long it will take. So just a summary of the lessons learned. Make sure you get all the appropriate stakeholders into your discovery, and you level set everybody about the effort involved. Make sure you deep dive into the journey requirements. Make sure the data architect attends the discovery, because data is going to be your #1 roadblock, I guarantee it. Make sure you have your agenda around getting journey requirements. Continually set expectations and watch for those red flags. Oh, another great lessons learned I had. So I was working that other project, that Salesforce project, for 20 hours a week, and it turned out this took me 40 hours a week, this project, so I was working about 60 hours a week. And I didn't have time to set up the normal structure that I would normally do on a project, which is create a charter and identify all the stakeholders and set up weekly steering committee meetings. So I didn't do that. I did have bi-weekly meetings with my clients, and I would send out detailed recaps with the action items at the top and any roadblocks in red to all the stakeholders. But I don't think anybody read it because they were surprised that we weren't delivering when we wanted to deliver, when we initially targeted to deliver, because we didn't have the data. And they were surprised. So now we always set up a real good structure. We have weekly stakeholder meetings. We want to make sure that we communicate what we need to communicate to everybody. So there's no question. So data. I'm going to double click on data because data is the foundation of your Marketing Cloud project. It has to be available. You have to say, decide what you can do today and what you can do later. You have to know when you're going to get it, and you want to know when and if the resources are going to be available, and raise any roadblocks. And by the way, if you give us your business card or email address, you can have this presentation. So you don't have to take pictures, but you can if you want. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Gabe to talk about more process.
All right, hi everyone, my name is Gabe Miklos, and I'm one of the project managers at NorCal Technologies. Who's a project manager in the room?
I mean, generally? Yeah.
Yeah. Generally is good. Okay, yeah, so I do projects, I do projects because I like help people drive true to their goals and dreams, and that happens a lot with Marketing Cloud. There's a lot of creativity in the marketing area, and you can actually accomplish a lot through this app. So how should we do it? What's the best way to get these dreams out there and established? I think very basic thing. Use Agile. Go Agile. Don't do waterfall. This will help you to have the flexibility when your VP of marketing comes with a new requirement in the middle of the project, and then you can plug it in. Scrum versus Kanban, you can choose your own methodology, but in the beginning, establish the framework and establish the scope. Know what is the timeline you're looking at. Is it 3 months, 6 months? What is it? Because you might see that the business team will just want the results tomorrow, right? Because it's easy. The tool is purchased already. Again, back to the basics, meeting structures. I think that's where people connect. That's where IT and business connect. And you have to have these in place. Weekly meetings. It's best to have daily stand-ups with the product managers, so you get continuous feedback. We take our IT meetings offline and run this in the evening time with our offshore team. Do not forget to room your backlog and schedule time for it, because you'll otherwise you'll run into these gaps and cycles where you don't know what to do, what's next, and where you really are, what your timelines are. UAT, people like to forget about UAT. Plan ahead, put it on your agenda. Communications, trainings, that's where the dream will manifest. And then avoid scope creep. Again, if the VP comes at you and they want something new, put it in the backlog, room your backlog, prioritize your backlog. Put it in, and then have that meeting cycle to get it up and running on your portfolio. Okay, now I'm going to hand the word over to Eshwar.
Hey, I'm Eshwar. I'm a Marketing Cloud Solutions Architect. I would like to walk you through the ideal campaign automation steps that would be suitable if you want to implement a successful campaign within Marketing Cloud. So the first step is define the business requirements clearly. Think about all the what-if scenarios it's better to cover as many scenarios as possible in the beginning because that helps in designing the solution and how it's going to be. If you're going to come up with new scenarios in the future, it just increases your development time and your go-to-market time. And the next step is that in today's marketing, it is driven by data. It's not just a hunch or anything of that anymore. So identify all the required key data points for your successful implementation of the campaign. And then you can move on to technical design of the campaign by making use of the Marketing Cloud features. Some of your campaign requirements can be met by the features provided by Marketing Cloud directly. For some, you might need to build custom solutions. So plan ahead for that. And then the next step would be to suggest the integration strategy. So if you have to get data points from external systems, there are multiple ways you can get data into Marketing Cloud. So depending on the business requirement, if you need it real time, if you need it in a batched fashion, you would have to come up with an agreement on the external system stakeholders as well to see which fits your business needs and provide the appropriate integration strategy. And the next step is that you will have to build the necessary data extensions, which are nothing but tables within Marketing Cloud to facilitate the storage and processing of the data itself that's required. And then you would go on to building your communications. So your communications could be anything from an email, push message, or SMS. And the last part is if you want to automate the campaign, then you either choose a journey or an automation, depending on which suits your use case and business need. And that would ultimately end up in a successful campaign. Let me speak a little bit about the outbound communications itself that are available. So you can basically send the outbound communications from 3 different channels within Marketing Cloud. One would be email, the second one would be SMS, and the third one would be mobile push. And each of these channels has its own studio within Marketing Cloud. So you can configure your specific email messages in the email studio, your SMS and push messages in the mobile studio. And you could also use them to send in an ad hoc fashion or even automate them in a recurring campaign. You have something called AMP script that can be used within all of these messages, which helps you personalize the content for each subscriber and make it more relevant to the person who is reading it. And coming to the implementation planning again, so if you're implementing something for the first time, let's say you want to start sending out emails from your Marketing Cloud from your Marketing Cloud account, make sure you have the sender domains branded, make sure you have the specific IPs required. So for example, you want to send service emails, have a separate service IP for the service emails. If you want to send marketing emails, have the separate marketing IP so that one's reputation doesn't affect the deliverability of others. So those are some of the best practices for deliverability itself. And then you will also have to make sure that your domain monitoring is in place if you want to avoid any bounces or anything of that sort. And make sure your IP is whitelisted with all the email service providers as well. If there are chances that you might be running into gray list or blacklist, just work with a reputation monitoring provider to get your domains off of those blacklists and gray lists. And then the IP warm-up is also a very important step in order to start sending your emails. So make sure you have the right IP warm-up strategy in place before you go full throttle with your campaigns. And as far as the SMS implementation goes, the first and foremost thing is getting the shortcodes assigned. So make a strategy on how many shortcodes you need. If you want to just use one shortcode for your entire brand, then just one is good enough. If you want to have multiple types of promotions or messages going out, then it's better to go with multiple shortcodes so that the subscription of one doesn't affect the other. And you would also have to make sure that you have keywords set up for people to opt into your shortcodes and for people to opt out of your shortcodes. And if you want to use the mobile push SDK, the mobile push messages itself, then there's a Marketing Cloud SDK available. Please make sure that you have to install it on your app. Only then you can start sending push messages to the app itself. Now, let's get into some of the email development best practices. Though it's not an exhaustive list, it still provides a good base for you to be more successful, I would say. So start with building a base template that meets all your design needs. It might not be all future design needs, but at least start with something that fits all your current design needs, and then you can expand upon it later. And the next one would be to build a content library of all the different types of design blocks you would like to use within the emails. So what this does is it helps you in changing the content easily, and it also helps enable the business users, and there isn't a need for a technical user to go back and build the emails all the time. And this is one of the practice that have learned the hard way. Avoid inserting the same code in multiple emails. If at all you would have to change something with respect to that specific code, you don't want to end up going back to 100 or 200 different emails and changing the same thing everywhere. There are AmpScript functions that are available where you can just have the block in one place and use that specific AmpScript code to be displayed in all the emails, so that if at all you need to make changes in the future, you just edit in one place and it automatically gets reflected everywhere. And there's also the issue of using primitive HTML and CSS. So when it comes to email development, especially new people, they try to use the latest features of HTML5, CSS3, and think everything would be beautiful and rosy, but that's not really the case when it comes to the email providers and their rendering capabilities. They are probably still living in the Stone Age. Most people do not support the latest HTML5 and CSS3 features, though there are a few clients that do it. In order to have consistent rendering across all the email service providers, try to use the primitive elements and not do anything fancy with respect to your HTML tags and CSS3 classes. And the next one is, again, analytics. So for most people, I have seen that analytics is an afterthought, and it's not something that's being considered from the beginning itself. So make sure you have the analytics planning in place and you're passing all the required parameters from your hyperlink so that you can attribute your marketing campaigns properly to the channel and also track your revenue. And then again, I would say strive for reusability over replication. Do not just blindly copy paste anything within the emails. Now, let's talk a bit about integration with external data sources. If you're using a Salesforce CRM platform, you have an out-of-the-box connector that's available. Make use of it. It is quick and reliable. And then you also have the Salesforce Analytics and AI capabilities with respect to Einstein. Those are some really good products. Make sure you're using them, especially some of the new features they're building, for example, send time optimization. That kind of removes your thinking about what is the best time to send to a specific subscriber. The AI does the calculation to see what is the best time to send to what subscriber, and sends the emails to those people or communications to those people at the right time, and that improves your engagement. So stay up to date with those specific features of Einstein and make sure you're using them to drive more engagement and get more bang for your buck. And you could also use Ad Studio in order, it could be either for inclusions or exclusions. So what we have observed is that most people just blindly start sending ads to everyone who they have a list of. With this integration, let's say someone has already opened your email and looked at the content you're trying to sell, there's no point in again showing an online ad to them. And you could keep sending such lists to your ad providers like Google or Facebook, and then either use them as inclusion or exclusion. So if someone has already seen the content you're trying to sell, then do not show this ad to them. If someone has never seen the content you're trying to sell, then you can show that ad to them. That way you optimize your ad spend as well. Okay, and I think I would like to turn over the testing best practices to Gabe.
All right. So what's next in our project? That's key. It is testing. So as we're trying to point it out, data validation and the data in the system is key. So when you go into QA or UAT, make sure you have the right data. Have your IT team spend the right amount of time on making sure that you have the right data even for testing, so you can provide the right samples and examples to user acceptance. Big time saver and energy saver, use a testing tool for emails. We like Litmus, but there is other tools out there. You can pretty much by a click of a button publish your email template to all the email clients and check how they look on those clients and different devices, so you can accelerate your QA time. It's a big win. Then once you're done with that, demo, do rapid prototyping, present your results to the team as soon as you can in your Scrum or Kanban cycles. And there's actually a hidden note there. It's not on the previous slide. Do a dry run if you can. We are still figuring that out, but it's something that we're really working hard on, to do dry runs before the demos. Now, testing best practices. These are the kind of the superficial ones. So create a checklist. Spend the time on checking every single dot that you have to validate on that template. Who's the sender? Are the links working? Do you have the images? Do you have the right content in place? Do you have it in the right place? Did your colleagues trick you and put in a link to some YouTube video for the fun of it? So grammar, spelling, basic things that you would think are in place. Just create a checklist, run through, and you'll be good. All right, and then reporting. Eshwar alluded. People like to think of reporting when you're at the end of the project. You'll be like, okay, cool. Now I have Marketing Cloud. Let's send this to our executives and show the results. There's a couple of project managers here. I'm sure you have experience with different projects. It's just not how it works. So you have to begin with reporting requirements. That will help you get the right data in for your reporting and for your dreams and solutions as well. Check what's out of the box for Marketing Cloud. You might find that not everything is in it. Custom reports, discuss what is custom that you need, and put it on your roadmap. It might take longer again than you think. And then for configuration of your email templates, make sure that you use meaningful descriptions, because when you get to reporting, you might find that you just added some code to describe an image or a body content in that email, and you will have to go back and fix things to get the right data out of the system. Long term, consider using your data analytics team, work with EDW, whatever your reporting tool is, for long-term, over a year reports. There's some limitations. I believe there's more flexibility around the time frame of the data you can get out of Marketing Cloud, but there are some limitations at 6 months, 1 year, for how long Marketing Cloud stores the data. That's why it's advisable to push it into your data warehouse. All right, and then monitoring, surprise, you have to build your monitoring solutions. Otherwise, you will not know that your campaigns are not running, other than your agents or clients are gonna just confirm or not confirm that they got that email. So you have to build create data logs to monitor each campaign, set some alerts to see if there is a glitch, you catch it as soon as you can, and use third-party tools. I believe Salesforce has a tool for this as well. Just check the pricing on. All right, lessons learned summary. So I'm no Einstein, but it's in Salesforce, and unless that's a fake quote from the internet, he said, work on lessons learned. So this is our lessons learned from our project, and if you would like our deck, let's just click through. I won't read through all of the summary. You can find us here. You can email us. Please find your own ways to connect with us. We're doing it too. And then now we have the one and only exercise for you on this presentation. Please rate us. Please send one text message to M01 and then click that button.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? Because yes.
So you guys talked